At this time, we're going to take roll call for both of the boards. We'll start with HRCS.
Dr. Thomas Woods here. Doug Lopez here. Sean Daly here.
Ron Embry here. Okay, now for the DNACE board.
Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Neighborhood Advisory Board, if you will announce.
Mary Beth Van Horn here.
Ryan Dare here. Christopher Green-Swazinski here.
Courtney Cole here.
We have quorum.
She'll announce it. Okay,
You want me to tell them?
quorum, it has been established that we have quorum for both boards. At this time, we will, I think most of the board members had a chance to look at the agenda. It was mailed out to us. At this time, I will receive a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose? Ayes have it, so carried. At this time, we'll receive a motion for the approval of the minutes from December 2nd of 2025. I'll receive a motion at this time for approval of the minutes. For the HRCS minutes.
So moved. Second.
It's been approved. All those in favor? Those that oppose? Ayes have it. It is so carried. Now, we're going to, for those of you who have signed up for public comment, and that pre-registration will close at 5:45. 30 minutes will be allowed for public comment, and each person that is speaking will be limited to 2 minutes. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, I have a list of the names for the public comment. I believe the mic is right here up front, and when I call for the participants to speak, I'll call two at a time, so there's always someone waiting, so we're in the interest of time, okay? The first speaker will be Paul Kohler, and he's from the Morris Park Neighborhood Organization, followed by Allison Rajak.
Hi, I'm Paul. I just want to thank the City of Lansing for considering additional site proposals for this valuable project. And on behalf of the Morris Park Neighborhood Organization, I'd like to formally support the choice of the Ingham County Human Services Building parking lot. This site checks all the boxes for us, preserving the dignity of the people who will be best served by this project, and is walking distance from essential services that are required for this project. I'd also like to point out that the location alone speaks to the fact that this is a county and city project, which it needs to be for this to go the right way. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Rake. I'm also a resident of the Morris Park neighborhood. I live 3 doors down from the former Shabazz Academy on the same block. So like many here, that gives me vested interest, but it also gives me a clear understanding of why that would not be a good fit. To be clear, this is not about opposing the project. It's about choosing a location that allows the program to succeed and set a precedent for this model nationally. Shabazz is the smallest site on the top 6 list and the most constrained. It's directly surrounded by residential homes on 3 sides in MLK Avenue, one of our busiest corridors on the 4th directly. This is a dense residential area with roughly 560 homes within a 1,000-foot radius. It's farther from groceries and support services and others being considered, and observationally, this would not be a humanizing, peaceful, or trauma-informed environment for the Mod Pod residents. If this hasn't already taken place, which I'm sure it has, gathering direct input from the unhoused community will be critical. The success of this program hinges on the unhoused perspective to understand what locations feel safe, accessible, and realistic for daily life. Without that, we risk investing in a site that works on paper but not in practice, harming the people this program was meant to serve. Shabazz would be an uncomfortable and force fit that undermines long-term success. This project can definitely work, but only if we listen to prospective residents of the Mod Pods and choose a location that supports dignity, stability, and utilization. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Chris Wisanowski and Chantel Spears.
Good evening. My name is Chris Wisniewski. I live at 319 West Street in Lansing, Michigan on the west side. I am a member of the Ingham County Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee, which supported the initial funds to purchase these properties, and over the past few years has been a strong advocate for affordable housing, safe, decent, affordable housing for all people. I'm really proud of the county for supporting this project with funds and now providing a space. And I believe that the county, along with the Trust Fund Advisory Committee, will continue to support this project in the coming years. And I speak for myself, not for them. But anyway, I think it's important that we do this project. People will argue that it's too expensive, but if you look at housing in this community, it is very expensive no matter which way you go. I was down in Detroit a few weeks ago and took a look at Tiny Homes project in Cass Corridor, $80,000 for a 400 square foot property. So everything costs a lot of money now post-COVID, and I think your board and your group is doing a lot to mitigate those costs with a lot of support from different organizations. Personally, I support putting the Mod Pods at the Ingham County parking lot. My feeling is that the city can either be welcoming to all its residents and supportive of all of its residents, or we can become a NIMBY community. We have a choice, and I think it will go quite a ways for us to make that decision one way or the other in terms of our reputation around the state. So thank you for the work you're doing. I'm glad you added the Ingham County site to the project.
Are you ready? So my name is Chantel Spears, and I'm part of the homeless union with Rent is Too Damn High. I think the one thing that I really want to emphasize when you select a site is that you really need to have input from the unhoused community. And when we met, we developed some criteria that we thought would be important, and so some of those things were like, how close is it to a grocery store? And we want a real grocery store. We don't want like a corner liquor store. We want somewhere where we can buy actual food for a decent price. Proximity to bus lines, so we prefer like a bus line that will run frequently, maybe every 15, 30 minutes. We don't want, one of those buses that runs every hour or twice a day. We don't like that. And so with that in mind, we had thought that Hunter and Stabenow Park were great choices. But with those criteria in mind, when I evaluate the Ingham County parking lot, that seems to me to be a good choice. But I would really encourage you to get the thoughts of more people from the unhoused community. But as someone who used to be unhoused, I do like that site. It is close to the number 5, and Myers right up the road. So thank you.
Brock and Carver R.
That worked out good. Hi, my name is Sean Brock, a lifelong resident of Lansing, also formerly homeless. I believe that the Ingham County DHS parking lot would be the best. You're right there by Ingham County Health Department, DHS. The Meijer is fairly close, a little far for people to get if they don't have access to the bus. It is other than that, probably the best that we have come up with so far. But this is a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound. We need to come up with permanent housing for people. What we're doing right now is just kicking the can down the road. This is a very important step, but it is just a step. And I want people to realize that. Also, I would like to address the situation that we have of a lot of NIMBYism. Everybody wants to help, but we want to help these people, just keep them away from us. And as a former homeless person, I can guarantee you that not all homeless people are drunks, drug addicts, and criminals. I was working full-time, more than 40 hours a week. I was taking all the overtime I could get. I was still staying in a shelter because I could not afford housing. That is what we need, is affordable housing for everyone. Thank you very much.
Carver are here. All right. We'll, okay, Chiquita Desmuke. Okay. Next up is Brad Clark. And after Brad Clark would be Michael Lynn.
Thank you. Again, Brad Clark. I need to make a comment about what I'm not seeing, and what I'm not seeing is a budget. Because whatever we do here, it's going to be a long-term commitment, right? So year 1, year 2, year 5, year 10. We need to get some insight of what the long-term costs of this project are really going to be. The last comment I want to make is I'm glad to see that other sites besides the parks are being considered. I have believed right from the start that none of our parks should have been on this list. Thank you.
Is Michael Lynn here? Okay, all right. Marilyn Irvine? Marilyn and Bob? Followed by Ron Smiley.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Irvine, and I live at 5211 Tulip, and this newer site that is being proposed is closer to me than the other sites. And the only reason I'm a little concerned about it is because we had multiple people living in the wooded area behind to the east of Gardner School, and I don't want that to happen if these Mod Pods don't work out. I don't want more homeless people living in the woods. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Where else are they going to live?
Hi, my name is Ron Smedley. I live just off of Green Lawn near the old McLaren Green Lawn campus. I've lived in that neighborhood for over 25 years, and I used to take my kids to Washington Park on a regular basis. We do not need any additional burdens placed on that neighborhood, frankly. This would be an additional burden on top of the large public safety building that's being built right on Washington Street, and the reuse of the McLaren campus, which is still in some sort of a middle period, I guess, until they fully develop it. But it's a horrible idea, and I think it's really not a great thing that we've pitted Lansing's neighborhoods against each other to not in my park methods. And it doesn't, homeless shelters do not belong in any parks. This is a great idea, I think, about moving it closer to services, closer to bus lines. You're not butting up against neighborhoods. And I would just really like to say that I think you need to think seriously about where you're putting people for long-term or short-term. And I agree with the previous speakers about permanent housing needs to be the goal of all this. So whatever this is from a transitional perspective, we need to be thinking long-term about getting these people out of pods into housing. Thank you.
Loretta Stanway, followed by Ariana Brown. Ariana Brown.
Let me make clear, I am not against the Mod Pods, and I live on Armstrong Road, which is directly south of the DHS buildings, and I am not against putting these facilities in the parking lot at DHS. The concern I have, that I still have 2 weeks after I was told all the immediately impacted residents on Armstrong's and the businesses impacted on Cedar or Jolly would be notified of this meeting, so they would have an opportunity to speak and say whether or not they were in favor of or against this project going that close to them. There are 16, somebody said that it doesn't impact a neighborhood. That is incorrect. There are 16 houses on the north side of Armstrong whose backyards would be absolutely adjacent to this. There are 4 businesses, or, well, 2 businesses, a church and a rehab center. One of those businesses is a daycare center. And as far as I'm aware, at this point in time, none of those have been contacted to say, hey, look, we're talking about putting this in your backyard. Do you have a thought? Do you have a question? Do you have a concern? So that is my stance at this point, is I want these people to be included in the discussion, aware of what's being proposed for their backyards, and given a chance to speak. Thank you.
Hey, so I just want to say that we've got to come up with a really long-term plan and strategy. A couple of people have already said, you know, we need affordable housing, and I just want to point out that, like, the whole point of having a minimum wage was so that we, like, when people were working full-time, they weren't stuck sleeping in the woods. And we really have lost track of that as a country, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to take one meeting to get it done. But there are a lot of people who are interested and who do care, and a lot of different organizations working towards that. So I'd like to see more communication across the different organizations, and I'd like to see more communication just like clearly from the city and just getting everybody on the same page. Like, because even now, like we have a Code Blue, we just did all this stuff to open the warming centers, and then at the CATA bus stop, there's a video of a woman being arrested asking to go to a warming shelter. So it's like we do these things, we open the warming shelters, but then we don't communicate, hey, this is open, this is the program. So I just want to have like a long-term plan for communication, getting everybody on the same page, and getting people into long-term housing that you can afford when you work for a minimum wage. So that's all, thanks.
Sharon Dade, followed by Jacquees West.
Good afternoon or evening. My name is Sharon Dade, and I guess I come representing Mid-Michigan Recovery Services and Kingdom Ministries, of which I'm an active part of both of those organizations. Some of you know me, some of you do not. I worked in the area of homelessness for about 25 years. And so I, celebrate the fact that we are doing something. I celebrate that because we need to. I love the model of rapid rehousing. I still believe that the answer to homelessness is permanent housing. The most important thing, I think, as we develop this out, as we work more toward a permanent solution for people in this community that is affordable and still gives them dignity, respect, is to have a strategy around collaboration. We have got to hold agencies accountable for doing the work that they say they're going to do, for working together for the best interests of those that need to be served. It is going to be a tough job. It's going to be a heavy lift. I've done it multiple times, as Ms. Coleman knows, Director Coleman knows, but I think it is critically important to have that accountability for the organizations that are going to be working around and wrapping around the individuals that need the services. I agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier. We have to listen to the unhoused. We have to listen to what they say their problems are. We have to listen with a critical ear and an ear of a strategic ear of what they think the solutions are. They may not say it in the way that we want to hear it, but they do know that a lot of their answers that will help them. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
All right, good evening. My name is Jacquez West. I'm the president of the Churchill Down Neighborhood Association. I want to speak here on behalf of Churchill Down. I want to express our support for the city's new Mod Pod location off of Cedar Street, the Ingham County parking lot. The site offers a strong accessibility to essential services, public transportation, nearby restaurants, and the South Branch Library. This project represents an important collaboration between the city, the county, and we appreciate the county's commitment to providing the land to make it possible. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Bird Tanner.
How you doing? My name is Bert Tanner. I live at 5315 Glenwood Avenue. I'm completely against having these at the Human Service Building. I live in that neighborhood. I'm a taxpayer. I single-handedly think that you putting these in an area of homes is going to single-handedly destroy property values. I would really like for you guys to think about that as you're making these thoughts, because I would 100% agree that they're probably not within an eighth of a mile of either one of your houses. Now, I can see the backyard of that. The problem with having, these inflated numbers or what have you not, are they gonna have to live by the same codes that we do? Are they code enforcement? Like, how close are these things supposed to be? There's a lot of things that aren't thought up on these pieces of paper, as in 24/7 security. Why wasn't this money delegated into the shelters? Why is this not? Why is this didn't work out for Kalamazoo? That's why we got them on a discount. The city of Kalamazoo would not let this happen. Being a taxpayer here in the city of Lansing, nobody wants this in their neighborhood. This does not belong. And I'm totally against it.
That concludes the public comments for this time. At this time, we're going to have an update on the Nova Lansing Initiative recommended sites. You're going to give us that update.
Good evening, boards. First of all, I just want to tell you thank you for being here, but also to let you know that we thoroughly appreciate the feedback that we've gotten from the public, and we'll take heed to all of it. We take this serious, and we are hoping that we convey the same message to the public. Coming before us now will be Amy Crank, who will provide you the update on the most recent list.
Good afternoon. I'm going to do a quick review of the list of 6 to include the additional Ingham County building. So the first item on the list, if you have it in front of you, is the former warming house and ice skating rink listed at 2516 South Washington Avenue. That property, we have an estimated prep cost of around $360,000. It would need pod utilities, showers to the existing bathroom needed to be added, fence repair, and the warming house to be worked. The next one that rated the second highest is the Ingham County Human Services Building, located at 5303 South Cedar Street. We estimated that the prep cost for that location would be $675,000, which would include securing the site and the parking lot for $175,000, pod utilities, shower, laundry, community center, and operations, accessibility due to the elevation change across the site. The county has agreed to lease the property to the city if selected. Next on the list is the Shabazz School, located at, or the former Shabazz School, I'm sorry, located at 1028 West Barnes Avenue. This would need pod utilities, pod foundations, fence, shower, laundry, community center operations. It is currently listed for sale at $650,000. Owner is willing to negotiate on price and terms. We estimated the prep cost for that location at $500,000. Next on the list, number 4, is the Comstock Park, located 800 Delford Avenue. We have that prep cost estimated at $500,000, which would need parking, pod foundations, pod utilities, shower, laundry, community center, and operations. Next on the list is the Hunter Park, located at 1400 East Kalamazoo Street. We have that prep cost at $500,000, which would need fence, pod foundations, pod utilities, shower, laundry, community center, and operations. And then the last on the list would be Reasoner Park, which would also include an additional property that is owned by the Ingham County Land Bank that is, it shares a property line. We have that prep cost listed at $800,000 estimated. That would include regrading a third of the site with engineered field, curb cuts, parking, pod foundations, pod utilities, shower, laundry, community center, and operations. Previously meetings, we went over the assessment checklist for 5 of the locations. So I'm going to go over the new location, which is the Ingham County building. So for this property, it is in Ward 2. We have the location and access for minimized barriers. Proximity to public transit is within a half mile. Proximity to essential services is within a half mile to a mile. That includes primary care, behavioral health, food, grocery, social services. It is within 1 to 2 miles of employment centers or workforce programs. Neighborhood fit, it seemed to fit with the neighborhood, aligning with the surrounding areas. It is visible and seems to be safe and has walkability. For the physical site, it checked for the site footprint, which would house the 50 pods and a community center. We would be able to get utilities, sanitation and hygiene. We would be able to make it ADA compliant. We would be able to include the fire protection and other safety and resilience items. It would be able to house the pods along with the staff and services. The environment was safe, neighborhood was stable, and there was enough space for common spaces. Services for access and staffing. It would have enough space for the parking and for staff logistics. Put these right here. And then for the items from the project, or the extended comments from the project manager, stated that the pod compatibility and the footprint size can support the 50 pods and support services. There were no utilities present, but sanitation would likely need to be serviced, such as pumping and removal. Site is a parking lot in sloped sections. Some ramping may be necessary for accessibility. The opinion on cost, which would include the site prep and development. Secured site for in parking would be $175,000, pod utilities $250,000, laundry, shower, community center operations $175,000, accessibility due to the evaluation, the change in the slope was $75,000. And then the notes from the review staff included the locations that were close to it. Tri-County Office of Aging is less than 0.1 miles. Z's Supermarket is 0.4 miles. Global Food Market is less than a half mile. Aldi is 1.7 miles. Myers 1.2 miles. The DHHS office is less than a 0.1 mile. Ingham County Health Department less than 0.1 mile. Ingham County Veterans Affairs less than 0.1 mile. Women's Health Clinic less than 1.1 mile. U of M Health Sparrow Lab is less than 0.1 mile. Cedar Community Health Center is less than 0.1 mile. Walgreens is less than 0.2 miles. Bus stop is less than 0.1 mile. Social Security Administration is 0.5 miles. There's veterinary care less than 0.5 miles. Newcomer Center is 0.9 miles. Michigan Works is 2.2 miles. MMRS is 2.9 miles. The smaller building may be available within the next 3 to 4 years to allow for possible expansion. Property is currently zoned as Industrial 1. Area that would be used for pods is already paved, and sanitation stations would be used. Did the board have any questions?
Thanks for the update. Seeing that we've heard this information, what is the pleasure of the board as far as action on these proposed sites? Dr. Woods.
I'd like to make a motion, if I could, that motion to remove all parts of consideration for the NOVA initiative.
It's been moved and seconded, just so you understand, that all parks be removed from consideration for the pods. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Oh, okay, well, discussion.
So my concern with this is that we originally agreed to. My concern with this is we originally agreed to remove things one by one. And this is going to leave us with 2 options, which is our end goal. That's it.
Okay, so I have been thinking about this a lot, and I think, so on the one hand, you know, and we went to every single park, right? Sean and I took a road trip. And certainly there were parks on there like Reasoner's small, and I think somebody during our last hearing mentioned that basically if the project were to go there, the park would be gone. And it is a small park. And then looking at Comstock being in a bowl and people's concerns about that, but just even thinking about the slope for people to get in and out of the pod village. You know, and certainly, you know, and it's ranked highly, Stabenow Park. And, you know, one of the benefits, I thought there, like personally, I thought there was an opportunity here, because listening to folks' concerns about the current state of the park and the potential to have this project potentially address some of those issues that sound like they might be related to negligence, right? Like the area where this would be in Stabenow Park is one that isn't being used currently, and there's an opportunity to potentially renovate that building. But understanding there's a master plan too to bring that skating rink back online, right? But I also, you know, and it's one of those things, because you're always like kind of struggling with this sort of like, not my park, and that was something that I dealt with too, because I'm an East Sider, and so like going and walking around Hunter Park and trying to envision what this would look like, it was hard, and that's something that like my community, the reason why I love my neighborhood is like my neighbors are some of the most welcoming people that I've ever met. And I'm so proud of them. But I know that that's a hard thing to ask. And in terms of like, who are these parks for, right? What's the use? What's the purpose? So I was certainly torn on this. You know, I think, again, there's parks where it would completely change the characteristic. It would change, like, fundamentally how that park is used. And I am glad that there's another option on the table. And to sort of back it up too, and sorry, I'm going down thank you for coming down a winding path with me. But I think, it's also what are the options that are available for this project? And these are spaces that the city has control over. So this is something that we could actually get done. But I think to Dr. T's motion, and again, I hear your concerns, but I think to Dr. T's motion, it is speaking to, we've heard folks loud and clear, right? Folks have concerns about how these parks are used. There's a clear not my park, and I'm all about procedure, Christopher. But I also see where Dr. T's coming from in terms of being responsive to what we've heard pretty much at every meeting thus far pretty loudly, which is, people don't want to see these in the park.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. I also traveled to a lot of places, and I think most of us did. I saw lots of you at community meetings. We hosted meetings. We invited people to them. We emailed, we Discorded, we Facebooked. And I agree with a lot of the comments that you made, and I think that Reasoner Park is not a good candidate. I think that Comstock Park is a really bad candidate. I think Hunter Park could be a good candidate if it had neighborhood support, which it does not. So I'm happy with removing those three from consideration. My concern at this time is one of the voices that I feel like really needs to be lifted up here are the people who are going to be most impacted by this are the people who are currently unhoused and who do not want to be unhoused. And I spoke with some of the members of Dietrich Park, and I spoke to members of the Homeless Tenant Union, and what came out of that meeting was that their favored places were, one, the data center location, which was on our list, but it's not in our top 6. The health department parking lot and the Stabenow Park. Those were, and Hunter Park. And those were their top priorities. Shabazz Academy, they determined was not close enough to needed amenities. And so if we remove all the parks, we are left with a very good option, which I think is the parking lot, for lack of a better word, and a very bad option, the Shabazz Academy. So, if we end up with the parking lot, I think that's a great option. But I don't want to remove all parks because I think that Washington Park is a good location for this, and I think it also is large enough that this project could go there and still be sequestered away from the neighborhood uses of the park. So having said that, however we vote is fine because I still think that we'll have a good candidate at the end of that vote, but that's why I was concerned about the process. I'm okay with skipping process if it's not serving us.
So I supported Dr. T's motion because I heard loud and clear from you, the public, that parks were not intended for this purpose and that you felt strongly that the integrity of our parks would be compromised if we located Mod Pods in any of these parks. I do agree that Washington Park or Stabenow Park would be of the parks that are here listed, would be my choice if we were to include any park, because I agree with you. I think there is the possibility of sequestering and still allowing for the use of the park. However, again, I heard loud and clear from the public that you do not want this located in your parks. That's not what you felt was intended, and I want you to know that I heard you, and we heard you loud and clear in your public testimony.
Any other comments? Any other comments? All right, are you ready for the question? The motion on the floor is to remove all parks for consideration for the NOVA project. That's the motion on the floor. At this time, are we ready for the vote? All those in favor? Aye. Those that oppose? Ayes have it, so carried.
Hello, set me up. I motion that we suggest the Health Department parking lot as our preferred choice to the city of Lansing. The Health Department parking lot, a motion that we suggest that to the city as our preferred option. That's the motion, that we suggest the Health Department parking lot as our preferred location.
Second for discussion? Yeah. So one of the things, and granted, because I just want to bring some attention to this, just simply because like this wasn't something that we hadn't discussed before. So just wanted to make sure that we all have like an opportunity to consider it. And, you know, the Ingham County Human Services Building is like a building I'm very familiar with, like just in terms of like having gone there for like the vaccination clinic, right, for travel vaccines, and just a ton of meetings over the years. And so I just, you know, went to refresh my memory, just to sort of get a sense of like the location, right? Because like, you know, memory is a funny thing. And just seeing the proximity to services, clearly like the Human Services Building, but then community mental health is there too. So like, and the fact that it's on like a bus line, right? So even those services that aren't that close by, like it's going to be a little bit more accessible for folks. But the fact that within a you know, walking distance for a lot of folks, just being able to get those like fundamental services, and then just like the daily things that you need to pick up, right? Like there's a Dollar Tree down the street too, so I was like driving by and just checking out all the shops on the way and just trying to clock that. But I wanted to like actually like highlight something that somebody said in the audience, and that in terms of like the collaboration piece between the county and the city, because I thought that was a really great point, right? In terms of like, you know, one of the things that we've been talking about for a while is the fact that like we need to have a much more like regional approach when we're talking about addressing homelessness, you know, like how do we help the unhoused, and that this is not necessarily just a City of Lansing problem, right? And I am very encouraged that the county is stepping up as a partner for this. I think that's incredible, and I think it also just sort of speaks to the fact that we do need to think a little bit more broadly about the unhoused and how we serve them. And then just one thing, because it's just been rattling around in my brain, because like you know, one of the things that comes up a lot is thinking long-term, thinking about affordable housing, you know, thinking about like, I don't know, thinking about the problem more broadly, right? And I 100% agree with like the folks that have raised that concern, right? Like, and I think of it, I have a lot of friends who do improv as a yes and. So it's a, you know, yes and let's do this. And I don't think, and granted I'm speaking for myself, this isn't a silver bullet, right? Like this is not a single solution to all the problems that folks have raised, which I appreciate you all for raising, so thank you for that. But I think, you know, it's yes, and we're gonna continue to have the conversation around these problems that are facing our community, our city, our county. Like, we're gonna continue to have those conversations. And with that, I am going to zip it. Thank you.
I don't believe that the last motion was seconded, so before we get into discussion, we should second the motion.
Yeah, the motion was seconded by Melissa.
By her.
Yeah.
Yeah, by her. But it was seconded by Melissa. Are there any other comments from this board? Yes, sir.
I think I'll just start by thanking HRCS staff and the HRCS board for all the work that's been done up to this point on trying to get everything, situated before we come to this recommendation meeting. I guess my concerns as a board member are a little more process related. I think the DHHS site has a lot of good things going for it. I think, partnership with the county, location of services, those are fantastic things. Having that location presented 2 days before our last meeting was supposed to happen, the timeline with that being listed as Site 6 for a month prior to that are concerns that I have. Looking at the process up to now, I don't think the board's received the information we'd requested on feedback through email, feedback through calls, site prep information, location on the sites other than posted publicly online. Those are things that I've just had concerns with going, from this point. So those are process concerns. I think the DHHS site has a lot of good things. I also think, the community should have been engaged earlier and had the opportunity to do that at a previous point. I know I'd held a meeting yesterday to try and get community engagement, but, short notice from that has been, an issue with these processes going forward. So I've just had process concerns, and the information requested would have been great before tonight. I don't know if 1,000 emails have come in opposed to the DHHS site, so that's where I'm sitting. I know the previous motion to remove parks, I think Christopher and I as park board members both, said no to the motion to keep discussions going on all but 2 of the sites is something that I think would have been beneficial, but Christopher's points were great there, and I couldn't have added it much better myself. I think at the time when the statement was released by the city regarding their support of the sentiment publicly on parks, I think that left us with one choice at the time for Shabazz. I know this location was added later, but those have just been process concerns that I've had. So while I think DHHS is a site that can do a lot of good with community partnerships, I know some external discussion has kind of been that, once this site was proposed, that's where it's going to go. And I think, those are just some concerns that I've had with the process, but.
Okay, so, and actually, Kirsten, something you said made me, I also just want to kind of clarify too, our role as an advisory board. Because, I've heard the final decision. We're an advisory board, so we advise, right? So I do want to, what we're doing is we're taking your input. We are, based on that input, conversations that we've had, the scoring sheets, the department staff, we're coming up with our recommendation, right? Because we're not the final deciders. So I just want to maybe kind of clarify our role, right? So we're making a recommendation that's based on your input, what we're hearing from our neighbors, our community, and we're presenting that recommendation to the mayor. So just, anywho, thank you.
Any other comments?
Well, just to the motion that's on the table, the reason that I suggested this, I think I already said this in the previous discussion, but this is my neighborhood. I guess I didn't say that. And it is close to a bus stop that runs reasonably often and reasonably late, so somebody who is working can still get to their job, and a lot of the people who qualify for this are working. Many of the homeless in the city of Lansing are working and contributing tax money towards our city. It's also by several grocery stores, and it's by that giant building full of resources. So that's why I think this is a great location, and that's why I suggested it. I also kind of just procedurally, and we've heard a lot from me and from Melissa, and not calling us out specifically, but there are other people on this board, and if you have concerns, I'd love to hear them, or if you have other support. I mean, I don't want you to feel like we're bowling you over with this decision. So I just want to leave space for that and for you if you have something that you wanted to say.
I guess I wanted to say real quickly, whatever site we choose, I think we recognize not 100% of everybody is going to be supportive. But what I heard from this room was a pretty significant support for this site. Understand that there's some individuals that are opposed. We're going to have that with any site. All we can do is make the best recommendation we can with the best information that we have available. And I just want to reinforce Melissa's point. We recommend, and we don't make the final decision.
I just wanted to state that we heard your concerns, and there are concerns. Lifetime citizen, born and raised in Lansing, 68 years. So we want to see affordable housing for people. We don't want to see anybody homeless. We understand that. So while that takes time, it takes time to build new housing, the Nova project could be done right away. It's not built from sticks. It's not, we don't have to lay a foundation, all these things. This is something we could do right away. And when the affordable housing is ready, then that's just another thing. We'd have more added housing. So we hear your concerns, and like I say, we're just going to make a recommendation. At this time, this board, are you ready for the question? All right. The motion on the floor, in case we've forgotten, is that we recommend the Ingham County parking lot for the site for the Nova project. Pardon me. Oh.
Point of clarification, is the motion on recommending it as our first, and that's where we're ending discussion, or are we doing 1, 2? Because I know we had talked about in a previous meeting.
My motion was the one. We suggest this one. If we have continued discussion or motions afterwards, I'm open to that, but my motion was this is our suggestion.
All right. Is that the understanding of everybody? That's the motion on the floor. The one recommendation. All those in favor? Aye. Those that oppose? Ayes have it. This motion is so carried. This will be the recommendation that these combined boards make to the mayor's office. I hear hand claps. I think most of the people are in favor of that.
And Mr. Chair, just so that you know and others who are listening, our next step with this would be to make the recommendation to the mayor and to begin having conversation with that community. The first will take place on the 29th at 6 o'clock at the new election office on Jolly. So we intend to begin conversations with them then, and we will ask them about their mode of communication going forward with hopes of having contact with them ongoing and encouraging their participation onto the committees where we begin to design, talk about the rules and regulations, how it'll operate, the whole gamut. So we truly intend to have them work with us as partners if they're willing to, and we will be extending that opportunity to them on the 29th during the constituency meeting at the election office. So I just want to put that out there so that you knew and that others knew that the communication and the effort does not stop here. This is where it all begins.
All right. I believe that's it for public comment. That section is closed. At this time, if there's no further, we have one? Oh, two. Okay. at this time is on the agenda. So there's Cutter Hume and Jamie Moriarty.
Cool, all right. I was kind of hoping to go before the vote, but that's fine. It totally worked out. I live in the Shabazz area, and I just want to say that there's 562 houses within 1,000 feet of Shabazz. Within Debbie Stabenow, I think there's 62 thereabouts. And for the DHHS, I think it counted about 40 houses that would be affected, or at least properties. You know, if it's like multiple housing, you know, you have multiple people living there, I don't know. But one of my main concerns about this whole program, this whole thing, has been transparency, has been about communication. A lot of this, the neighborhoods had no clue that this was happening. I remember from the first meeting that we had, I was told, hey, if you're not on Facebook, that's your fault. You know, how come you didn't send out flyers? You didn't have the money. How come you didn't go door to door? You didn't have the manpower. And one of the concerns that I have is the budget. Like, there's been no information on this at all. What is the plan for the next 3, 5, 10 years? We haven't been told any of this. We were told at that last meeting back, you know, after Thanksgiving, that we would be given this information, and we still haven't. And there still has been no updates on any of this. So again, I'm concerned that Lansing is going to do this, which is great. I'm in support of it, you know, in support of DHHS, great site. But I'm concerned of what happens when the regime changes, when suddenly funding gets cut. What do we do about this? Are these sites just gonna magically disappear, or is it gonna become a little like shantytown, which isn't good for anyone? So it's just, again, my question is, where's the budget? What does it look like long-term? Thank you.
Hello, also a Morris Park neighborhood resident. It is I also have a lot of the concerns around transparency and communication. And just hearing from another person talking who lives near the Ingham County building, also saying, we didn't know about this. How were we supposed to know about this? So I think for the Mod Pods to be successful, it needs to have strong community support around it. And that is concerningly not been happening. So I encourage more transparency, more communication, more routes of communication. The park's next 5-year plan listed a great list of how they engage the community in their planning process. I am in support of the Ingham County building, which is a moot point at this point since you already voted on that, so grand. I do think that I really hope that this works out and does work out long term, but it would be nice to get some more feedback, information from folks, because this is something that we want to be sustainable, economically feasible, and work in the long term. So the other locations that were on the list, I think everybody very much agreed against public parks, so I really thank you for listening to everybody on that point. And I am glad to hear that Shabazz wasn't a recommendation, because it is a historical building that's not ADA compliant, that has a lot of, you know, red tape around it because it's historical. And so I just really think that that's like, I wish there was a little more investigation into some of those sites before they were listed, because they didn't seem like a great option. So I don't know, that's it. That's all I've got to add. Thank you.
I just want to say, of course, we hear what you're saying. The next meeting, I just want to make sure that it's clear so everybody understands, is the 29th. This Thursday. Okay? The 29th at the new election office over on Jolly. So, yeah, 2 days from now, January 29th, 2026. At 6 p.m. This is at the new election office. It's almost right across from the Quality Dairy on Jolly and Washington. So just to share that information for people, and there will be lots of information on there, and there's also lots of information on the HRCS website. So whatever questions you have, please bring them there, and there'll be information that you're talking about as far as the budget and everything, and the long-term goal. I'm sorry. You did, didn't you? I called your name. Come on up. Yeah, come on up. He did. He was on the list.
Thank you for that. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Kim Coleman and HRCS, because I don't know, like, I keep hearing these transparency conversations, and I've been an advocate in this city for about 10 years. I've been busting my butt to try to get, like, the city to be transparent. And this is, like, the first time that I've ever seen this much transparency, and y'all open it up to care about what people think. Just think about all the buildings and things that have been built, even over the last 5 years. We have a whole complex, police complex. We got multiple fire stations that have been built. We got all types of things being built. Our City Hall was built, a new city hall. Not once did they come ask any of us what we thought. And so I just want to say, you know, I seen this from the fruition. I seen the work that y'all put in. And I see the thoughtfulness that went into making sure that groups were brought into the conversation. And so, you know, I do want to say, you know, when y'all do well, we should appreciate that and speak to it. And you guys are setting a precedence, really, how this process should go forward. Now, did you get it perfect? There are people that will say no, and that's cool, and that's fine. And I've had those conversations and tweaking it and trying to get it exactly right. So the thoughtfulness, the intentionality that went into what y'all have come up with right here, I just want to celebrate y'all for that. And so going forward, I do truly believe you have set the mold for like what we should be doing when it comes to public comment, when it comes to public input. The way that y'all just pulled them parks off after that was a whole big old conversation, just so nobody's heart had to be pounding during that vote. That meant something to people, even if it was symbolic, because you might have already had this conversation that kind of knew. I know it had been stated before, but it meant something to see it in a real, you know, in an official capacity. So, you know, going forward, this is, again, you know, for me, something I would like to see across the board when we need tough decisions need to be made by the city to really bring the community into it. So Kim Coleman, HRCS board, and all the rest of y'all, congratulations. Y'all did amazing.
At this time, we'd like to thank each of you that are here on this evening to be a part of this process. And to this board, at this time, I will receive a motion for adjournment. It's been moved. Second. All those in favor? Those that oppose? Ayes have it. So carried. This meeting is adjourned at 6:40.